Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Viva Bastardo podcast, brought to you by the Hagerty Podcast Network. Today, we have as a guest Gioel Molinari. Gioel may not mean anything to you, that name, but if I say to you redshift75, or more importantly, green Ferrari F40, I'm sure that will ring some bells. But he's so much more than that. He's got extraordinary taste in cars, extraordinary taste in cured meats and meat slices, and singers, and we just talk about all sorts of stuff which has made me horribly, horribly depressed. So let's get into it. This podcast is brought to you by Inbound Motorsports. Now, if you follow me at all on Instagram, you will know that Rami, who runs Inbound Motorsports, is totally responsible for the Maserati Shamal, the Mitsubishi Pajero Evolution, and the Lancia Delta. I've all bought through Rami, so I've had personal experience with him. He's great. If you're looking for an obscure car or a fantastic car, an interesting car from Japan or elsewhere, he is your main geezer for this kind of antics. This show is brought to you by Economy Signs. They do extraordinary livery for cars. They do it for anything from spec Miatas to cars raced by Paul Newman. They've got an incredibly deep archive of brand decals, and they specialize in vintage motorsport liveries. They've done a ton of vintage Ferraris and other assorted priceless cars with history. If you've been to a vintage car race, you've seen their work. And the good thing is that they do paint and vinyl, which is fantastic. So check out Economy Signs, and let's get into the show. Gioel Molinari. I feel like I'm presenting with an award of some kind. So for anyone who, if you've been, unless you've been living under the Arctic ice cap for the last couple of years, you have no doubt seen Joel's most famous car, which is the green F40 Verde Abbatone. Is it Abbatone? Is that
Abitone?
You actually speak Italian. It's a what?
It's a tree.
Abitone.
Abitone is a tree.
Oh,
so it's a green tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, like most trees, greenish. No?
It is your typical green tree, for sure.
Okay. So, that... you can never sell that car. Because if you sell that car, like, 3/4 of your Instagram following will they'll leave in protest, in rage. It's who you are now, Joel, is the green F40 guy.
We could talk about that at length, actually, but so it can only go back to Eugenio, as he has the right of the first refusal. That was the original.
Oh, is that
agreement.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just to clear it for everyone else. Eugenio Amos is the madman who took a perfect, flawless, low-mile F40 and said, you know what, Did he do the interior too? He did.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
Oh, so he repainted a perfect car and did the interior, which is, I think, ultimate peak bastardo move. And to be honest, when you see it in that color, I have to say, I feel like a lot of cars, like the F50 actually, like it's so much better in green or in blue, or even I saw one in white the other day. Amazing. I feel like red is the worst color for that car.
It is. Agree. It doesn't necessarily do it too many favors in red.
Right.
And so once you get accustomed to the bastardization, which now is a little bit fashionable too.
Sure.
And you just look at it as, does it look good on the car? You really, wow, it looks
amazing.
Good. And actually, as you said, in pretty much most colors that you would see, other than the red, you tend to enjoy it more.
I've said this before, I'm really not a red car fan. But it's just eye-opening. I love seeing really well-known car designs in a totally unexpected color. Because especially for all the classics, you just used to see them in the F50, which sadly, you know what, man? I feel like just this whole podcast is going to depress me. Because I'm basically talking to like a version, like a much better version of myself. Like you are the
less handsome.
No. You are the Philip Toledano, like 3.0. Like the cars you have, man. This food thing, everything seems to be covered in truffles at all times, or like fine meats
during the season, of course.
Yeah, of course.
It has to
do
be
you
seasonal.
Do you have a meat slicer?
Sure, of course. Don't you? A restored one. Actually, pre-war.
Is it?
We could talk at length about the history of slicers and and where they came from. But yeah, I have a Burkle from 1913, which was actually made in it's 1919, made in Indiana, and Van Burkle was the inventor of the slicer, which actually changed dramatically the food service industry because delis did not exist prior to the invention of the slicer.
So wait, was he kind of so can he almost take credit for the sandwich? I know the sandwich was named after the Earl of Sandwich, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, they had knives before that.
Yeah, you could slice stuff. You could slice.
You know what? Okay,
they had the technology to cut things.
No, there was no slicing technology pre-slicer. No, what I mean is like the industrial, like he was the. Okay, let me put it this way: was he the Henry Ford of sandwiches? He invented the assembly line essentially.
He was the Henry Ford of meat production more than sandwiches, because that really was the problem he was solving. Sandwiches, I think, was a different downstream problem. Initially, it was just about how can you slice meats at very high precision, fast,
right,
and at scale. And so basically that created
I feel like everything you buy, Joel, you know the history going back several thousand years. Like I don't think.
I mean, you should be a well-informed consumer.
But I don't think Joel goes and casually buys anything without. And tell me if I'm wrong, man. But if you don't like go and buy like a panini maker without like looking at the origin of the very.
Well, I guess I early on I definitely tried to learn or at least try buy once. Like if you're gonna first off, don't buy too much shit. Don't buy too many things.
Sure.
That's one principle. The other is if you're gonna buy a thing, try to just buy it once.
Right.
And so some definitely, and in particular, then I tend to sort of focus on the things that matter. And of course, slicers are one of the most critical things in life.
Sure.
So you have to if you love meats, you love cured meats.
Who doesn't love cured meats, man?
And
vegans,
savages,
vegans.
That's right.
But even vegans can appreciate a slicer because you can cut cabbage and vegetables and cheese and other things very, very.
There you go.
Very well. If you've never had a beautiful, beautiful cabbage sliced paper thin on a slicer, then you're missing out.
Then you haven't lived.
You haven't lived.
I don't have a lot of cabbage consumption.
I mean, it's good for the biome, man. It's good for the biome. Well, let's just back up for a minute. So you invented this device.
No,
no, you don't want to talk about that.
I hardly invent anything.
Well, didn't you invent? I mean,
I worked on it.
We worked. Do you want
team invention?
Let's get the origin story of before you became the green F40 guy.
There was more to you than the green F40. Well, okay, let's just say. Well, can I just take credit for inventing it?
Of course.
Okay, so I invented it, but then you stole
We're not NFTing it. You can take credit and nobody will be able to check.
That's right. Okay, I invented it, you stole my idea, now you live in life that should be mine, Joel. So do you want to tell us a little bit about,
myself.
Yeah, tell yourself what you assisted, which is kind of an amazing thing.
Well, just my background is as I'll consider myself a maker. And so I've had a few entrepreneurial stints, and actually the F40 came from before this latest business. My first career was in investment technology, and with some friends from Carnegie Mellon, where I went to school, we developed a piece of software that it's still in production, makes it easy to do systematic portfolio management, so running your portfolios in a sort of automatic way. Now they call that robo-advisory for consumers. But that was actually how things began when I was coming out of school, and I had a tiny bit of money in my E-Trade account, and was just reading articles about how these Wall Street firms, these quants, would be running these portfolios using computers to decide instead of people, and that seemed like it made a lot of sense. And how could I apply that to my own little portfolio?
It does seem. I mean, look, I've always enjoyed investing, but I'm like in most things I'm fairly clueless. But
that's the reason you need a machine.
Well, that's the thing is, it always seemed to me that if you had a machine that would have access to all the information that was out there, was able to analyze it and pass it in a way that was intelligent, why would you ever have people do it?
Exactly.
Okay, but
that was exactly.
So, but let me ask you this then, just on as a random thing: do machines generally outperform people?
Now they do.
So can you not just? Why can't?
Well, and it also depends, though, what you mean. But you have to define performance. That's sort of one of the big things in investing. Risk-adjusted performance versus outright absolute performance are
Okay,
different things.
So risk. What's risk-adjusted?
Where you set a target of the type of
Return you'd like.
return and volatility, which is the risk. So how much your
see.
portfolio can change on a weekly or daily or monthly basis, and you sort of determine how much you can tolerate, if you will.
Could you not set it to say, okay, I'd like each year I'd like to achieve, like, say, 10% return, which would be pretty good, particularly given this year.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, would you be available perhaps to write some software for me?
Well, these things, sadly, now they're fully commercialized, and you can just go online and do it. So
it's like, really?
Absolutely. Numerous companies. I think one of them is called Betterment.com. It's robo-advisory. You program in your goals, and it will rebalance and manage your portfolio for you.
Wow. Okay.
That's one of
so you saw a hole.
Well, we were early.
Right.
It's funny. Now we were early because we thought we would do it with retail investors to help them. We were about 20 years too early, 15 years too early.
Right.
So it turned out instead it was of interest to mutual fund managers and other institutional professional investment managers that needed and wanted to do more of this kind of systematic stuff, but didn't want to program or didn't know how to program.
Sure.
So our angle was to make it very easy to do and develop and test these different investment ideas just with drag and drop interface. No programming required, but all the hard stuff was behind inside the machine, if you will, because we realized people were spending, and as is often the case, in like 70% of their time doing very menial work preparing the information to feed it into these models. And only about 10% of the time was actually testing the idea and analyzing the performance.
Sure.
And that didn't make any sense because the first part was very automatable.
Right.
So that was where...
This was the first... I didn't realize you were a serial entrepreneur.
A serial with maybe 2 plus a small business on the
side.
So,
Well, let me just say that you're right. That's a small serial. But they seem to have done reasonably well. I mean, you're eking out a fairly miserable existence.
Well, listen, I have to serve. I'm a barista, and I serve coffees on the daily for my Autostrada members.
That's right.
So in some way, we have not escaped the grind, but it's a passionate grind in this case.
Now, is the coffee machines, are they also vintage, restored?
You have video. You should have. Of course, the coffee. I actually waited 10 years to have a place to put the machine.
Oh, you'd found one and it was sitting somewhere for 10 years.
Yeah, it's Keith Vander West and Speedster.
And
he's been having this model in production for more than 10 years now.
Okay.
And I had spotted it. I've been a coffee espresso fan for some decades.
Right.
Because that matters too,
right?
Child,
it is. I will say, man, you are a fascinating individual because I feel like everything you choose has to be done in the specific kind of way, but in the best kind of way that you can think of.
Well, do you know that there's this very good sort of mantra: how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting because we were talking about Japan earlier, and we have a mutual.
We have a lot to talk about on Japan.
Yeah, because I'm obsessed with Japan, and I was saying the thing I love about Japan is that everything matters.
Yes.
And so what you just said is really interesting because it's true. Like if the small things matter, the big things matter. Right. That's so interesting because I mean, when you look at, well, first of all, man, I find great humor and jealousy in the way you clean your cars. Because I have to say,
therapeutic.
Doctors might have another name for it, but I'm sure it's therapeutic.
Obsessive.
Humor. Yeah, but it's amazing because I'm not joking. I can probably count on both hands the amount of times I've cleaned my M1 in 10 years.
But you're busy.
No, I'm not that.
And you have all 10 fingers.
Yeah, and I have functioning hands. But no. I'm really not that busy, man. I could be cleaning the car, but I just find no interest in. And then when I watch you, man, you go in there with the air blowing thing? And then do you have like a toothbrush?
steam cleaner.
Yeah,
The steam cleaner,
it's amazing.
yeah,
But I love that, man. And it's kind of, and I could totally see how it would be therapeutic. I mean, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess.
Also, because you're working on this amazing thing, it's not like you clean like a '97 Ford Focus.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of touching art.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that's how it's sort of like maintaining a piece of art more than like cleaning.
You're just
not
dusting off the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, it's not. It's in many and by that in that manner appreciating the details.
Right.
That's really and pretty much these. Whether it's the watches or cars or the the slicer, it's just about the details and the the machinery. And
do you find I find a great joy when I stumble across something new. I find great joy in the prospect that I've got to then learn all about it and find the best version of this thing.
Yeah,
do you find?
Absolutely, and in fact, but we're not alone in this. It turns out this is sort of a term I learned recently from a great book called The Archaeological Automobile by Miles Collier.
Okay.
Highly recommend it. And he talks about mastery, automobile mastery, which is not just what does it mean to properly take care and collect a historical vehicle. Mastery includes like running it, knowing how to fix it, knowing how to clean it, driving it, etc.
I think the difference,
and it's the whole
that's
360 aspect of it. It's history, understanding its history, etc. So
I'm terrified by kind of. I have a huge appreciation for the history and the aesthetic, but then the rest of it is this sort of nebulous nimbus cloud of terror. The mechanical aspect, like I feel like if I start looking into it, I'm going to break something. If I start like as I broke the Pajero when I tried to change I didn't break it. I just I changed the battery and I didn't do it properly, and then I had to get push started in front of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But so. Oh, okay. Hang on. Let's just back up for a minute. I think I would love to. I'm very interested in the cars you have, man. So if you can just give us a rundown. I'm mildly interested in the mediocre collection of cars you've managed to assemble. So can you give us a rundown of your stuff so we can talk about that, because it's so interesting. It's just great.
I mean, it's also where to begin, right? Because you sold a business.
Couple businesses. Sold one business.
Did you immediately start purchasing vehicles?
Oh, I was purchasing vehicles since well before I could afford it. Like that. What was your? The only thing the business changes is much, more, higher degree of vehicle that I probably still can't afford. But
so what was the very first?
That began a long time
What was the
ago.
first car that you sort of wanted, but you?
So I have an interesting. I'll begin. This wasn't the first. It was the third car that I shouldn't have had. At that age and stage, but they always have good stories. So this was 2002, and I was about 6 months married, and the 996 GT3 was announced, released for the USA.
Sensible car for a just married.
Well, not only just married, also working on my first startup,
right?
Paycheck to paycheck, and with minimal to no funding,
right?
So of course. When I see the announcement, and I'd been reading Evo for a few years, I'd been reading about these Porsches and GT3 from prior generation, the 996.1. So I see the news, and I go to my wife, and I say, Ronnie, I need to use all the wedding money we receive to buy one of these cars. It's essential to
It's critical.
It's critical to my startup. It's critical to our livelihood,
That's right.
Our well-being, etc.
And all very understandable points.
And and this is what was important at the time, because this would really motivate me, and it just was. And of course, she refused. First laughed, then realized I was serious. Refused, raged. Right. So then we went into 3 to 4 days of silence, which we didn't speak to each other.
Right.
And
she was mulling it over, man. She was mulling it over. She was considering
weeping in my office, in my home office.
Right.
And eventually, she thankfully acquiesced, and I was able to. I found a speed yellow 996 GT3 in Washington that somebody had passed on, and I borrowed, begged, and pleaded to get the vehicle, which I daily drove for 3 years.
Okay.
Working
Nice.
on my first startup.
Critical to the startup. You were an amazing... mental acuity was off the charts
It was
post
off the
purchase.
charts. Driving, we lived in Florida at the time, Delray, so we'd drive every morning to the office. And actually, it just really brought me so much joy. And I have no idea if it was connected to the outcome, but the business ultimately did okay, and it was
Man, I mean, I've got to say that's like a ballsy sort of first. I mean, aside from the fact that you put all the wedding money. I mean, this is 6 months into the marriage.
Yeah,
that's a year.
Wait, are you guys?
But this
Are you
was
still
like-
married?
This was what mattered.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
success
No, but
story.
you know what?
20 years this year.
It's kind of.
But was that. Cars are very important.
Right.
The most important thing. To
So,
me
but was
in my youth.
that was the first car that was kind of the first like real car?
Prior to that, I had a 2005 E39M5, which was
That's great.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
And then before that, I had an S4, Audi
Okay.
S4, the 98, 99.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was good.
Yeah.
My first car out of college was an Audi A4 1.8T.
Okay.
That was, and you would say that was probably the only appropriate for my stage of life car I've ever had.
Right.
Wait. Did you fall victim to modifying it at all?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
First off, I debadged it. So
Yep.
like you couldn't have the 1 point. You debadged, left the Audi on the back, but debadge, front badge blacked out, chip, exhaust. Obviously, it was a manual car.
Right.
But that was about it. So not like heavily modified, but just
Bags, spinners,
No.
light effects. What? No ground effects?
Those
That's going on the
I didn't
CLK.
get to those till later.
You really need to do spinners or something. You should. You know what? For April Fools, I feel like you should put ground effects on the CLK and go, guys. Just what do you think? Just
I agree.
it has to be done, man. It has to be done.
And a little sound system.
Yeah, you're just a subwoofer you're putting in the back. That's a
good call.
So, okay, so now currently the stable is just, and the video aspect will show my cheeriness is index linked to your car list, so I'll get progressively
there is the video
sadder.
aspect.
I'll get progressively sadder as you run through.
For those watching at home, the editor will be slicing in Phil's tears.
Are we really going to enumerate? No.
We
Well,
ha-
just a few now.
Well, you want to? Well, because
I'll give you the theme. Okay.
What you've done that's interesting, man, is you haven't taken the obvious choices. And I feel like, particularly these days, it's quite hard to resist the gravitational pull of the obvious. Like, the joke I always make is when you make money, you get an email from the Department of Rich People, and on this email, there's all the shit.
What's on that list?
Well, okay, so
I'm curious.
F40 but red, LaFerrari, maybe a Pagani of some kind.
Yeah.
What else do you think's on the list? Enzo. Usually red.
Yeah.
Department of Rich People is very
is
specific.
it always paddles?
Yeah, it's always it's always battles.
It's not any
Department of Rich. You can get that's an infraction from the Department of Rich People if you do stick. What else what else would be on the list?
Well, so many things.
Yeah,
So many things.
but so it does require
curation.
well imagination actually
And that too,
is what
yeah.
I'd say. And you have imagination in what you've, and I really love that, man. So
Thank you.
Give us if you don't want to do the whole list.
No, it's not a long list, thankfully.
Well, that's yeah.
But, you remind me if I miss. There's just very few, but they came at different times, and they do follow a bit of a theme.
Sure.
Should we oldest? So
However
first
you
off,
want to do it.
the theme I love particularly are homologation cars.
Sure.
So cars that have like a reason for being that's not just transport A to B or to flex. But,
Right. Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Pagani
about.
man. So it's not just for flexing, but they actually have a reason to exist, that they're purpose built, because that appeals to the engineer in me.
I mean, I was a massive homologation geezer, as you
know
know,
you were.
and it wasn't the engineer; it was the romance.
Yeah,
like the story, and I'm sure it's the same thing.
Of course. It's
Right.
all the elements together of homologation cars, the engineering, the history of the people,
Right.
the narrative that connects with the time and place.
Also, it's proximity for me. When I had all the Group B stuff, it was the proximity to all those things, like the proximity to that history that was so cool. Like, how many things can you buy that have a proximity to something that's so genuine?
Yeah.
It's like buying like a Civil War musket,
right?
Or
and
something.
It's meaningful, right? It has real meaning, and most likely where that the endeavor cannot be repeated again ever.
Right.
That's the other thing.
Right.
So it can't remake that scenario.
Yeah.
So homologation is the theme, although it's obviously F40 is not exactly a homologation car, but it has some of that gene in it. But the cars all are analog. And
Very much so.
They're analog. We call them 3 pedals each, and generally I've tried to stick with what I know, which are German and Italian cars. Mostly the Germans because they appeal to the engineer and kind of make everything.
So which ones, Joel? Which ones?
Oh, okay. So we already know about the F40.
The green F40.
The green F40.
Glorious.
And that has an interesting history. You'll prompt me if you want that. You can Google it.
I mean, well, it's so you got it from Eugenio Amos, the Italian chap who, as we said earlier, he painted it. Is there more history that?
Yeah. It's there a little bit more that's not in the Google. So it was a one-owner car, before Eugenio bought it at auction. Yep. The owner is a semi-infamous Italian Ferrari collector called Emilio Nutti. He was a financier in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then got into trouble with the tax
Guarda di Finanza, whatever.
What? Italian businessmen in trouble with taxes?
It's very strange, but what happened is he then had to auction off his entire collection. It was enormous and a very, very substantial Ferrari collection, of which it was this F40. So it was just a certified F40. It was an auction in Monaco. Eugenio got the car, and he immediately decided that it ought to be different. To his taste, which is this green with the tan Schedoni colored interior, and mostly the interesting part outside of the color is the first owner is a very interesting figure.
Well, Eugenio, you have a connection with him.
Eugenio's also an interesting figure. He's not a criminal yet.
He's working on it. He's working very hard on it.
But he seems he's also actually working.
He's Automobili Amos. For those of you who follow him on Instagram, he is the creator of the Lancia Futurista, which I think you have one in a Stratos color combo.
That's right. That's right. Delta Futurista.
Yeah, the Delta Futurista. Yeah. So you have the F40, the Delta Futurista.
Yeah. We have the F50.
So that's
also
newish,
an interesting
right?
story. Yes. Also, and you'll this might come out over the course of the conversation, but I'll say it to be clear. These cars often, actually, pretty much all of them, have come not from looking, but because certain circumstances happen.
Right. It's funny, like I feel like
car. I'd been wanted an F40 for many years, but I never found the right one. I've many emails with Joe Sacchi about to buy one, like 700, 800.
Right.
But I never really knew which one was the right one, USA or Europe, and I had heard a lot of stuff about them being rolled back, and so I never really pulled the trigger. And I wasn't looking at all for an F40, and through this Futurista project is how I got to know Eugenio, and over then a period of time when he was wanting to do something different.
Right.
That's how it came to be.
Right.
So
you was Futurista. I thought the Futurista came after the F40. So it was Futurista first.
Yes.
And then,
once I was
green
qualified,
F40.
maybe. No, but actually, we met the first time I went. He invited me to go to the filming of the Grand. What do they call it? The Grand Tour?
Yeah, the Top
with
Gear.
Jeremy Clarkson. And so Clarkson had done a special on Resto, Lancia, Resto mods, and sort of modern classics of that era. And so I went to the UK, to the Ebola-drome. Eugenio watched these guys rip around the prototype.
Yeah.
And that's how. And then they did the launch. We did the launch was in London at Girardeau and Co. And that I want to say was in 2017 or so.
So you knew he had the green. Did you say to him, "Hey, listen, if you ever get bored of it, if you find it tedious, you probably want to get rid of that old dog"?
I actually didn't. I did
nothing.
not. I said nothing. That's that was
cool. Even better, man.
That was cool. So then
he just cold called you?
No. It was another friend of ours, Italian car mafia, Maxige78.
Oh yeah.
He texted me one day and he said, "Hey, I've heard Eugenio's thinking of selling his F40. You should, maybe you might want it." I said, "Yeah, okay."
I like that very casual response, man.
Well,
okay.
and then we had to negotiate about whether he had screwed it up with the green.
Well,
what's it worth? Oh, well,
because it's so interesting, man. Because
it was unclear what it was,
Right.
Well, I mean, from a strictly traditional standpoint,
of course,
he's fucked with
it's mangled.
Yeah, he's sort of destroyed the value of the car, right?
Yeah.
He took this one owner Classique certified car,
removed all the weave, by the way. So in the paint job, which you see the photos from, they removed every defect in the body once they
that's like
there's no weave.
That's violation number 1 on a F40 restoration.
There's so many violations that were performed.
So I mean, well, it's so fascinating because. I mean, just from I'm just in sort of a purely sort of theoretical standpoint. Is it worth more or less or same? I don't know.
I guess it will be hard to know because
until you try.
Well, no, how do I determine if I have to sell it back to Eugenio?
Right. He's got. That's right. Because what if he does the same technique on you? Look, I'd like to pay full price, but it's been painted this terrible green.
No doubt he will.
And I don't know.
Automatic.
I don't know who would have painted this car this color, but I like it. But it's
I was such a fool.
Why did you do
bring
that,
it
Joel?
back to the original.
Yeah.
But,
so we have
that.
Yeah.
F50 is super interesting. That's maybe even more interesting in some ways because the F50 was actually something I had I have a roadmap of sorts, car roadmap with different lanes, Italian classics and German, etc.
Is this I feel like there is actually a physical...
There is in my notebook. It's written out, it's refreshed depends.
It's a hit list.
No, it's really like a roadmap.
Now let me ask you this, is there
of different types?
Is there a chamal in the roadmap?
There wasn't.
You know what, man? You don't have to humor me and my strange chamal obsession.
No. But actually, the F50 was for actually a few years because I love the other vehicle. That will enumerate eventually is the Carrera GT.
Yeah.
Also, not really homologation, but
right. You're kind of you love homologation / not really homologation. I think it's really not really homologation.
I take poetic license with the notion of if it has some connection to homologation.
Right. Yeah.
But no. But actually, I've loved the Carrera GT, and I
you still have it?
I'm on my second now.
Okay.
I sold the first one regretfully when I was working on the second business.
Right.
So that was in 2016. I bought it in 2011 at the bottom.
Wow.
And it was
that
black.
was like $300,000.
Yeah, $325. I have
wow.
From Porsche Scottsdale, 2,300 miles, basalt black on black.
Right. What's the current one? Silver?
Yeah, silver. GT
better color,
silver.
I think.
Yeah, I actually like. I have no qualms about the replacement. Is a better, even mechanically, it's incredibly perfect.
Right.
But so the first car had gotten at the bottom of the market, even though it was the most expensive vehicle I'd ever purchased. And that's another fun story. I flipped a coin at dinner with my wife to determine whether I should buy it because I was on the fence.
I feel like your wife has been kind of significantly present at
of course.
Right.
But and the first owner was Elon Musk of that car.
No shit.
Turned out,
of your second car?
Of the first car.
Oh, the first car.
I discovered that after I sold it to the gentleman in California who... He sent me. He texted me. Do you know who the first owner was? No idea. Did you look in the service
That's the
book?
kind of email you really hate getting because they're building up to it belonged to King Charles III.
He also was he was a hard negotiator. If you're listening, Mike, I remember that. But anyways, he texts and he says, have you seen the service book? No. Elon Musk. I said, yeah, when he got it to the dealer in California.
Right.
They said,
would that add value? I guess.
Right. Yeah, a little bit.
To a Musk fan.
Sure.
To the right Twitter enthusiast.
It doesn't detract. It doesn't detract.
Right,
but
that's
it's
true.
It's just a funny.
That's
funny
that's
element.
kind of genius, though.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyways, F50. Back to the F50. So that was actually the sort of exit prize, if you will, for my latest business.
Right.
Said if that goes well, F50 was on my roadmap, and Gerardo and Co had one listed all last year.
Right.
It actually had 33,000 kilometers, and I
kind of like that.
And absolutely,
I love
it. It's a driver's car.
It had been completely refreshed by Carlo Bonini, who's the maestro, and it was exactly as you said. Like a driver was like not crazy priced, and just everything seemed ideal about it. And I was just waiting for this deal to close. Things go through early December, and I text Davide. I said, okay, F50 time. Davide, yeah. He said, what? I just sold that last week. And I was like, I said,
Bastardo.
Damn it, darn it. That was the one. Because I didn't want some ultra low mileage thing, and Providence, we knew of that one. So I was, I was just sad, but it happens.
Shamal
could have.
No,
actually, then what happened was DK Engineering's holiday catalog showed up, and it had the section on the GT1 era,
right?
And the Mercedes was there,
which was a small panacea. It was a small. It was a small consolation prize.
Exactly.
I mean, and look, I appreciate your pain, man, having to suffer through the CLK.
It actually very rapidly sort of.
I mean, you really didn't you get Henry Catchpole to get in that car to see if you could fit? He's actually
we had done a larger gentleman first. That was even larger than Henry to confirm.
How do you know him? I've been talking to him on his. He's like I think he's like a Molinari stunt double English version. Yeah.
Oh, because we had met at Pebble some events in the past, and of course I had read his work in Evo and watched the videos. So. We had James Cottingham had a larger friend,
right?
Same height as Henry
wasn't
and
Simon
I, 6'4".
Kitson or something, was it?
But Simon was another test subject because
what's going on, man? I feel like you got like.
Well,
like all these.
Just
we got Sterling Moss. We tried him in it first. He was a little too small.
It was just a simple matter of making sure that I would fit in the car I bought unseen and unfit.
Sure. Yeah, but
there was no travel.
No, I know
travel.
I know it's a simple matter, but you happen to get like these automotive conoscenti.
They're just all are tall. Like that just happens to be the right size.
Right. That's all it is.
But so it was clear from Simon and Henry and James's friend that actually it wasn't. I could fit, and that was good.
Now, did you get Fangio to give it a quick spin around, see if it was okay, just mechanically speaking?
He was unavailable, but Henry did do the shakedown and comparison.
Did he?
Well, they did the 3 series of videos that you might have not seen.
Yeah, I've seen.
He did McLaren F1, Porsche GT1, and the Mercedes at Donningham. No,
okay.
Was it?
Yeah.
Proving Grounds.
Okay.
And it just happened to be good timing. That worked out.
Who's the gentleman running DK these days?
James.
Yeah. His video on like the walkthrough of the CLK is actually really good.
That was the first one of its kind, and actually blew. Like he did it for me because we couldn't. There was COVID, so we couldn't travel. And he sent it to me. I said, "Wow, like that's really cool."
Yeah.
And then he posted it, and it got now I think it must have 500,000 or 600,000 views.
Right.
And then started because of the reception. Then did a few others.
Well, I mean,
they weren't quite as interesting because the mechanicals of the other cars are not quite as crazy and intricate.
That whole DK engineering joint is just it's like some kind of crazy like Caligula / Nero level of orgiastic automotive majesty in there.
I want to get on the holiday magazine list. That's
a lot of there's a lot of very impressive car. to me.
Okay, so we got the F40, we've got the Futurista.
We got Futurista,
F50.
F50, which closing the loop on the story.
Yeah.
So what happened is a few months after the incident called Girardo sold the F50.
Right.
Again, Maxige is very good at this kind of stuff. He sends a message and he said, "Are you still interested in F50?"
Yeah.
Because a friend of mine has one that is very interesting, has a really interesting background. It's not on the market. Of course, yes. And it turns out that Maxige's friend is friends with the son of the owner of this car, of this F50.
The new owner.
The current owner, the prior owner of the F50,
Yeah.
when I was looking, who is was the oldest living board member of Ferrari, and also the president of Mugello, Robertino Benelli. A very
every time you say anything in
successful-
Italian, man, your voice drops
for
like
you.
3. I've got to say, I'm loving every second of it, man. Robertino. It's like a small movie happening for 2 seconds.
No, but so this amazing gentleman racer, entrepreneur, and friend of Enzo's, and president of Mugello Circuit, Robertino Benelli, had this F50 for 15 years. He hadn't used it in 6 or 7, sitting in his basement in Florence, and he didn't want to sell it to a broker or a dealer.
Sure.
And Maxige knew through his network his
This
son.
is amazing to me that these
I got
cars
this
just-
amazing F50. The end of the moral of the story
Yeah.
is 2-owner Italian registered F50 with 10,000 kilometers. We took it again to Carlo Bonini. He refreshed the car and then drove it. The break-in was the Mille Miglia last year. So the first.
Oh, it's a nice gentle break-in.
It was superb. Yeah, we
man,
nonstop.
I mean-
Obviously, roof off.
Yeah.
4 day. We did extended Mille Miglia modificata.
Right.
An extra day before and after. So by the end of the week, we had 1,300 mile, what is almost 2,000 kilometers extra on the
Right.
F50,
Nice.
all around northern Italy.
I mean,
And
this
it
is
was
all-
just
this-
phenomenal.
this is all like-
it was then
This
it's
is
a
all just-
religious
this is just-
experience.
This is all like pornography. Frankly, this is
That
it's-
was
but it's all
that
That's
was some
kind of-
real life
that's-
bucket list shit.
It's so
Yeah.
it is bucket. But you know what? It's funny because I have another friend of mine, and he's kind of like you. Like these cars that he's always wanted, just kind of drift towards him.
they
it's like
magnetize.
it's like you're some sort of black hole exerting this unseen gravitational force that
it's a
pulls
blessing.
that pulls towards you these things that you just want.
Isn't that what's that? Isn't that there's that book on that? Like if you maybe we're manifesting so hard.
Well, I think that's what's happening. You manifest hard enough, man.
He's got the mood board in the office.
Yeah.
Like, I want this to show up. And
It just, it'll just some F40 been in some geezer's basement in Florence will just drift towards you somehow. You're like, hey, what's this doing
I
here?
wish. I'm afraid the luck. Yeah, I think I'm finished with that. But it's okay. It's worked so far.
So F50. So out of interest, what's the F50 like versus F40 to drive?
Yeah, we're gonna break a lot of hearts, I think, on here because it's dramatically better. Like,
Really?
Yeah, in every way, essentially.
Right.
The control. I mean, because the F40 is a bit of somewhat of a combination of a truck, a go-kart, and a switch on a turbo engine mashed together.
Right.
It's not a machine of balance and finesse or delicate controls. It's you sort of handle it. The brakes are wooden.
You know what?
The throttle is
The
pretty
220 is kind of like that.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the nature of cars from that era, mid '80s, early '90s, and the turbo engine is just it's just not it's tricky to put the power down, and you're generally concerned that it's going to do something unexpected.
Right.
So it's extraordinary, but it's a bit.
Now, this is going to be buffoonish. Is the F40 a turbo car? F50 is turbo or not?
No,
it's not turbo,
no,
right?
no. It's naturally
It's a
aspirated.
10 or 12?
12.
12.
Yeah.
I'm so clueless.
No, it's
To be expected.
There's a lot of different engines, but so the main difference are the controls and the mechanicals of the two cars are really. You'd think it's only about 10 years difference, but you'd think it's a lot more.
Now we have discussed in the abstract a possibility of a color change.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to happen?
You know, it's interesting because I have to, despite my, I don't have misgivings, but I think it actually looks quite good in red.
Oh, I know, but it looks so good in other colors.
Which inspired me because when I was looking at it, I was like, change it. What? And that one is, and I'm not as a bastard as Eugenio, meaning because this car does actually have a legitimate provenance, and it's very, very, it's completely original.
Well, I know that, but what I'm saying is this: I mean, even you can do things that are harmless, like the spray-on, the Autoflex, or the.
Frankly, there just hasn't been the opportunity, the timing to sort of really consider it.
Because every time I see that car in any other color but red or yellow, I just think, wow,
it's better.
It's so much better.
The silver one's really...
Silver's amazing.
Silver is probably the connoisseur's choice.
Yeah.
I was sort of, I don't know, there was a few other maintenance items that needed to be done before I colorized it.
Which is kind of what it is.
Yeah, paint job was not number one on the job list.
It wasn't the top thing, but... so that's I think probably actually peak analog.
Now, didn't you catch that just before they kind of snapped and went much higher?
Yeah, and actually, I should say thanks to my associate, I got a very, even when I got it, I got a very good
price.
Right.
Well, that's fantastic.
That's good timing.
Yeah, it was
Usually I sell cars and then they snap. Then they go up.
It's sometimes you're just blessed.
Right. Sometimes you're lucky.
So yeah, we're holding.
So we've got the F40, F50,
Carrera GT,
the CLK,
the
Futurista,
and then there's the Alfa Romeo.
What's the
Alfa
Alfa
Romeo GTA Junior?
That's right.
Yeah, that's actually one of our favorites.
Who's one of you? Just the Royal? You and your multiple personalities?
The family. No,
do they drive in that?
They ride in it for sure.
Really?
Yeah. That was actually that absolutely. That car arrived about 6 years ago at Amelia Island from the UK. It just had finished the restoration.
Was this an Alphaholics thing?
Yeah. It's Alphaholics restoration, but it's an original GTA Junior. So it's not a GTA R.
Right.
I'll tell you a funny story about that in a moment. When I called Max Banks in 2015 to inquire about a GTA, and I said, Max, should I get a GTA, an original one, or one of your Resto mods? I have a Singer, and I like that idea, but I don't know which way I should go. And he said, you should get the original because we can always make you the Resto mod version. Right. So I said, okay. And he had this beautiful Italian car they had just started the work on.
Isn't that an interesting color?
It's just red.
Oh, it's red.
Again, not interesting.
Oh, you had another one. You had a blue. Didn't you have a blue Alpha at one point?
Yes.
That's right.
That was a basic GTV. Right. But so we get this GTA Junior, beautiful restoration. It's incredible to drive. 1.3 liter Weber 45s. It sounds crazy, even though it's a tiny engine.
Right.
It fits pack the whole family in, 3 children in the back, plus my wife, and we're driving around Amelia Island, and that's been one of our favorites. Now, of course, when I went back last year, I said, Max Banks, Alphaholics, maybe I kind of like it's time now. I would like to actually get on the list for one of these GTARs, and he said, yeah, it's 7-year wait now.
Really?
That's as bad as Singer.
And I said, no, that's worse. Singer's 4. 7 is like a number you would quote if you want somebody to just go away. That's right. I did. 7 is like nobody actually waits. Right. Forget 4 years. 7 years for a car.
I was going to say 4 still isn't good, by the way, just so we're clear.
4 is ridiculous.
But here's the thing.
This notion that you would have more than 5 years of wait.
But also in 7 years' time, they won't be allowed. They'll be all electric cars or wind powered or whatever it's going to be.
So yes, I said, I think, Max, you might need to consider adjusting either your price or your production, because obviously you have an imbalance. If you're telling legitimate customers they should come back in 7 years, that's not a good look in general.
What did he say to that?
No, he said, So, well, you know,
Maybe
it's what
hire
we'll
like
do.
one more guy for the assembly line.
Whatever it is.
Right.
So actually, it did not turn out to be true. That these Resto mods are more desirable now than the originals. And who would have
I
predicted
find
that?
that you see,
Isn't that crazy?
I find that
it's not-
I find that baffling, man. I mean,
It's baffling, but
someone
it's
offered
true.
someone offered me what's the Resto mod 037?
Yes, a chimera.
Yeah, someone today. There's a space space for a build if you want it, and I having owned you own an 037
Yes,
too.
yes.
We both own 037s. I just feel like a Resto mod of a Group B car to me is like listening to the echo of an idea of a memory. Like it's not.
I agree.
It's not like the
Yeah.
point of having a Group B car homologation. You know, the Stradale version is to that proximity to the romance we were talking about. So then, it's like looking at a picture of a picture of a picture. Then I don't get the idea of it. I guess they cost more than an 037.
Yeah. But Phil, that's I guess precisely the way, which is, well, in general, the world and what people buy is completely irrational, and it's become dominated by Veblen goods, right? Like the higher the price, the more desirable it is.
Is that a German word? Is that what that means?
Veblen economics, yeah.
That's a person.
Veblen, yeah.
This
So-
is.
You are now enrolled in an economics course.
No, but this is fast because that's the kind of shit I love to. Like I stop at like the. Oh, no, I've just forgotten. What's the
Macro,
no,
micro?
like
That's
Stockholm syndrome, Veblen. What was it? Munchausen by
good.
proxy syndrome. Like I like to accumulate all these strange
These names.
Yeah,
This
I love
guy.
to. Yeah, like what's the one where you sound like an idiot but you think you're really smart? Come on, I know you know this. It's something my daughter uses it all the time when she's talking to me.
We'll have
Anyway,
we'll have to,
okay.
But nonetheless,
So wait, Veblen. So
Veblen good.
Veblen good. That's a whole name?
A Veblen good, yeah.
Oh,
it's
I see.
It's a behavior in economics that defies like the normal
So-
behavior of supply and demand and prices, which
Okay.
is normally prices go up and the demand goes down.
So the more expensive
Actually,
things are.
yeah, like Richard Mille. Like Richard Mille is the perfect
Amazing.
example, right?
Did
The
you ever
more-
own one of those?
I did when they were 50% of retail in 2010.
Right. Okay.
And then, so I bought. I did have an RM10 in titanium. I bought
Right.
for $24K. Retail was $48. And I
Right.
thought, that looks cool. It's good.
Right.
2007 or 8. I bought.
Okay.
And I had an RM004, which I got in 2011, which I would say is one of the real RMs with Renault and Poppy movement, split second. And I sold that a few years after because they became pure Veblen good and a flex. And
That's the thing about those. That's the thing about those watches to me is that people buy them so that other people can see that you have the money to buy
That's what
one.
a Veblen good is.
I see.
It confers social status because of how expensive.
Do you think
it
I
is.
should be selling Viva Bastardo sweatshirts for like
Much, much
$950?
Much more.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
Especially
$980 a
Can you
sweatshirt.
sign them?
Can you come on board as like an advisor, man? Am I?
It's right here.
This is amazing.
Yeah, he's
man.
giving you free game
This
right
is
here.
like- this is business school. I never went to business school. This is fascinating.
No, me neither. But like when you just observe, like you're like, what
Right.
the heck is happening with like who's buying this stuff and why? And you start to see all these goods, and so a Resto mod that costs much more than the original, which actually is a legit. So it's not even. They use a Beta Monte Carlo, so it's
Right.
not really a Group B to begin with. But as you said, it's a shadow of like
Right.
the thing. But by having a very high premium on it.
It makes people want it.
It makes people want it because
What do
it's
they go?
just-
800 grand or something?
I don't know. I didn't inquire.
Well-
More maybe
Six?
around that 6. I don't.
I mean, look, it looks lovely, but I just don't get it. You know what I would love to see? I would love to see someone churning out electric-only versions of 70s concept cars. How great would that be?
A very extreme market demand for that. Do you think?
Don't you think? I feel like we're at this point now, and I think Instagram is to blame, where we've seen almost everything there is that was ever made.
Yes, this is true.
So there is
You
this
can't-
urge.
yeah.
There's this urge in the world to have. That's why the Veblen good theory is happening, because people want to have something that no one else has.
It's pretty sad actually because, the
No one has seen a Di
Instagram-
Tommaso Guara.
Well, I was going to say, you actually may have got the...
you're doing extremely well at that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like you could back yourself into a corner with the Veblen good philosophy where it's so obscure. People are like, what the fuck is that? I'm not buying any. I'm not going to buy that.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah. That's fascinating, man. Sorry, I totally derailed you. I can't even remember what we were talking about.
No, but we were just talking about the cars. So it was the Alpha and
Singer.
the Singer is so it.
You've
I don't
had that
actually
for a while though, right?
Yeah, but I sold it back to Singer last actually in February.
Because you have another one on order, is that right?
DLS.
Oh, you have a DLS on order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting thing to have on order. That's a very cool car.
It's really cool. It's very.
Did you test drive it?
No, I never test drive. I haven't test driven a car I've bought in like decades.
Me neither,
ever.
man. Because you
Must
can't.
be decades.
You can't do it because especially
What
the
am I
stuff. I mean, like the stuff that you like or I like is so obscure and or rare or just odd that. It's not like you go, hey, there's a guy down the street. He has one. Maybe he'll let you have a go.
But and also I feel there's no real need to if Marino Franchitti is test driving it and he's saying it's good and and I'm seeing the videos and all that. Like what am I testing it for?
No, you're quite. That's a very fair point. I mean, I guess you know what I'm thinking about.
I'm already I feel like you decide these things. If you're serious, you decide you don't test drive like this kind of thing.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking about a different level of cars. Like I remember, I bought an Iso Grifo, and when it arrived, I drove. I was like, it's amazing looking, but I don't really like driving it. But it wasn't like anyone was talking about them. It wasn't like It wasn't like
you don't have a trusted authority. Like if you have trusted authorities, and Henry Catchful says it's good. Yeah. Then it's good enough.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure he knows his stuff.
He knows. That's why you have proxies.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. But wait, the DLS, have you spec'd it yet?
Yes. So just in fact, this last week, it was an arduous process, and I went to the UK to the factory because they make that model in the UK.
Right, because Cosworth does is it Cosworth?
It's Williams.
Williams, that's right.
The engine, and the development they did. And Singer has a campus where they assembled. They're doing now, and they have quite a few that are in final assembly and finished.
When's the delivery date?
I don't know. Mine is a bit later, so it'll be probably next year. But
have you seen the Glickenhaus?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
You're throwing me stuff a lot of different directions.
I know, man. It's confounding. It's confounding. I'm just interested. I'm just interested because
from which aspect?
I can already tell where you're going. First, I will say that I feel like for the money, it seems like a remarkably cheap car. It's $500,000, I think.
It must be the gym is obviously losing money.
Do you think?
I
have no idea what things cost.
So I think it's clearly not priced for like a deep profit.
Right.
Right? Because the market would presumably support more and other.
Why do you actually? Well, going back to your what was it? The Veblen.
It's not a Veblen good.
Yeah, that's right. I wonder, but
good.
do you think that's harming it? That it's kind of affordable in quotes?
It's a very good question actually. I don't necessarily think it helps. I don't know that it harms, but it doesn't help. Meaning it's interesting because I do these days. I feel like, sadly, there's a comparison. There will be a comparison shopping aspect, and when folks see, a regular production Lambo is kind of the same price, but how is it? This is supposed to be a special, low production niche vehicle, blah blah blah.
Sure.
It kind of maybe creates questions.
That's right. And you're right.
And it's sort of if
it makes the car less, which is, first of all, I love the 3-seater thing. The design, I like the P3-4 canopy thing that's happening. The back end, I kind of like. The front end seems a bit guppy-ish, gullety, odd, a bit busy. But I like to see it in person. I feel like you have to see it in person. A guy I know, a friend of mine, has ordered one. He seems to love it.
I think in a dark. So I've seen in person because Podium, who manufactured the first ones for Jim, and also developed and built the Futurista, had I guess they call it Gigi. The gold car.
Okay.
They had it there a few times, and so we had a good look around. And
so what was it like?
It looks. I have to say, it's impressive from the standpoint of from scratch design, blank sheet of paper, niche vehicle manufacturer to put together like a full, well-running car that looks like it looks like it's a competitor to the Lamborghinis and the larger manufacturers. Now, like you could certainly say obviously styling is always subjective. I've seen a dark version, a black one.
Better?
It's really sinister and strong looking.
Right.
I feel like maybe the one place where there's something kind of I don't know. There's some more could be done given I think their resources, Jim's resources, especially they're pricing the car at this point. The interior, the dashboard,
not so good.
Well, it's just very extremely rudimentary.
Okay.
Like it's.
I mean, there's charming rudimentary, and then there's sort of like, oh shit, this is what I'm getting for $500,000.
It kind of looks like it come from a Caterham or like
visible screws.
Visible screws,
right.
Like just.
Wait till you see
the most basic.
Wait till you see the
most basic analog round gauges that you.
Wait till you see the interior of the Guara.
Yeah, no. Look, there's charm in that, but it looks kind of like a Ford GT, a GT40 kit car, like dash, just 5 round.
Just a little too simple for the price point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like.
He needs just a small hint of the Pagani.
2020, like you can have like an LED, you can have sort of a something, but it sort of gives I feel that part is what might be holding it back more so than anything else, more so than the price or the design, color, anything. It's sort of like the interior.
It is interesting because when you think
sure.
about like cars that from these really like supercars from the 80s or 90s, no one was really thinking about two things. No one's thinking about the exhaust note, and no one's thinking about interiors.
Right.
Like people always go, oh, the 220 has got a rubbish interior. I think, well, look, have you looked at a 959 or a M1 or a Bugatti EB110? Those interiors are kind of terrible. They're just mundane at best because no one they were just, as long as it kind of was functional.
But that's of its era.
That's right.
And that's okay. But the thing is,
now it's different.
Out of its era.
Yeah, no, now
it looks like it's something. You're like,
yeah.
But we also have a lot of technology for 3D printing. You know, if you're already going to the trouble of doing carbon molds for everything else in the car, why not do one for the dash panel?
And the reason I guess I was like a little bit surprised by that part is because Futurista, built by the same guys, and the interior was completely redone from the Delta. And they made a really nice looking interior with very nice materials, metal, Alcantara, all fits well.
I think it's a beautiful interior.
They only made 20. They only made 20 of those, and so it's well within the resources of Podium
I think
to
that
do that.
I feel like those things
are it's not like it's impossible to.
I think that's just an absence of vision. I think that's just. I think it's a blind spot. Like
I agree.
When you look at,
it's a marketing thing.
Well, but I think that
not marketing, but it's a product marketing in the sense of like design a complete product.
Well, you look at this may sound kind of mean. I don't know Jim Glickenhaus personally, but whenever I see him, he's always dressed terribly. He's got the worst sense of style I've ever seen. I'm just gonna say it, right? He looks like a hobo. But and I doff my cap to his car collection, all the rest of it. But so I feel like that's just not in his vision. He just doesn't see those things. So he's seeing the car, the performance, which is extraordinary, the design, which I think it could be super cool in person, the right color. But I think maybe that's just a blind spot for him.
Yeah. I don't think
now he's never going to. He's going to stop texting me because he's always calling me and texting me asking me for my advice. So I've ruined our friendship. What was I was going to say something of great importance before I just sunk my.
I was going to say, you're going to get hit with. He's going to take his cowboy hat off and just hit you with it.
That's right.
Great importance.
Do you have to bugger off? Are you on a timeline, man?
No. I just didn't know how long these things are allowed to
2
go.
2 to 3 hours.
Oh.
No.
No, I have a dinner at 7. So
I think we'll be done by. I think we're done by 7.
We will try to get you out of here before 7.
Yeah. Do you bring your sleeping bag? This is a sleepover, man.
I'm accustomed to the tatami.
Are you? Oh, we're going to talk about Japan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So many things.
We have to talk about Japan, but we also do need to cover what's in the box.
Sorry. Well, hang on.
Cars.
Before we segue from cars to watches and that stuff, I have to ask: have you driven a regular Delta?
Oh yeah, I had.
That's right. You had one. So Futurista versus regular. I know it's clearly going to be such a better car, but is it like light years? Was yours a stock Delta that you had, or was it? Okay.
Yeah, stock. Well, you'll assess for yourself. You have to drive. It's not light years difference. It's the same, but just juiced up and tighter and with better turning and better braking.
Okay.
But it's not. It's actually quite similar because the nature and the fundamentals are the fundamental architecture of the car is the same. Like it's all-wheel drive. The block is the same block. It's just bigger turbo, so you it feels the same. Like
is the block bored out, or is it?
It's the same size.
Okay.
Just more boost and more cooling, and maybe some higher compression. But it actually behaves similarly with like the boost. It comes on, and you feel it push back in the seat, and just everything dialed up some.
Right.
So the turn in is really fast and nice because the suspension now in the front is double wishbone. So instead of struts, they have new geometry, and it does make it a difference.
I don't really know. Like you know how I said, "Oh, okay," and I nodded my head.
I can tell you don't actually.
I don't really know what that
because
I see the Guara also has double wishbone inboard suspension.
Yeah.
Now I know that's Formula One style, but I don't know what I don't know.
Well, we can actually like
resolve
the problem right here. It's super easy.
All right.
It just means so basically you have the wheel, and the wheel has front and lower arms.
Okay, that's double wishbone.
Double wishbone means, they both look like wishbones, right?
Okay.
Like a triangle. It's a triangle, and it goes to the wheel. And you have two of them, one above the other, and it allows the contact patch to stay in touch with the road as you turn.
Okay.
And as the suspension moves up and down. Traditional suspension, like in
has
the Lancia,
one
is a strut.
Okay.
So it's fixed at the top, and it just moves like that.
I see.
So it's not It's not
Grazie,
parallel.
professore.
You're welcome.
Thank you, man.
So anyways, that helps a little bit.
Okay.
And then the brakes are a little stronger.
I mean, when I saw it's funny because I had a Delta and then I had sold it to actually the guy who started, Randy, the guy who runs Bring a Trailer.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to list it on Bring a Trailer, and then he called me. I was like, "Hey, do you want to?" And then he just handled me
Is that called front running?
Yeah,
front running.
He just savaged me, and it was like a fucking WWF beatdown on the negotiation. I was like, "Okay, just take the car."
Damn,
it was crazy. I was like, "Wow, no wonder." I mean, I doffed my cap to him for his skills. So then I sold it, but then when I saw the Futurista, I thought, I kind of miss having a Delta. And I thought, I wonder, the Bastarda is actually a direct result of the Futurista because I saw it and I thought, I wonder if I can kind of make something that's
an extremely good one too.
Well, you haven't driven it, man, but
that doesn't matter.
It just looks, you're right, it looks good. It looks good.
On Insta, it looks amazing.
That's all that counts, man, if it looks good on Instagram. Well, but it was kind of an attempt to sort of make something that was maybe like a 16th as good for like a 24th the price.
Yeah.
So because that's all like rebuilt engine, bigger turbo, but no double wishbone. And now that I know what it is,
you might have to go back to the shop.
Now you want it.
No, I want double wishbone and everything. I'm gonna put it on the Audi.
Right. It's a verbal.
I recommend it.
So, God, that's such a.
DLS?
It's interesting.
No, I mean, I would love to. Yeah, I'm
just
curious.
if I'm supposed to prompt you.
No. I was letting Phil's brain.
What's happening? What's happening?
We're hijacking this because the DLS is a very important car. No, I'm just kind of curious, like how you spec'd it, just because obviously, the possibilities are seemingly endless.
Yeah, and it actually was a problem because initially, and I'll try to find it.
You're going to show us pictures?
Yeah, I'll show you. Initially, there was. I kind of got, and this is the first.
What color is that top secret?
I will show it to you, but we can't
reveal.
You'll tell me if you appreciate it. But
what if I
so
don't
initially
like it
the color was
awkward?
silver,
okay.
Because I really actually love silver.
Okay.
And I was not inspired by any. There's just quite a lot of. It's become harder and harder to sort of
find an interesting color,
find inspiration, basically. And
I'm sure you're aware of my crusade for the right color for the Shamal.
Yes,
I've been drawing that out for months and months. I mean, it's got to the point where I just keep emailing.
Have you solved it?
It's the shade of this matcha can.
No, that's the Guara color.
Oh,
have you solved it?
Well, I think I'm going to do bronzino. Although I really would love to do green, but I feel like everyone's done green for everything.
Exactly. That's what
I'm going to
really...
do verde abbatone.
You should actually. Let me. So the silver, because there was so much blah.
Come on, man. Wait, the camera could be seeing it. Oh, that's nice, man. Okay, so
Okay,
swipe across.
that's really. I'm not going to say the.
no, I lost it.
you're
Okay,
somewhere.
I went.
It's
well,
not- it's-
I went to Grinder.
So, but it was a very last minute thing because
Just kidding, everyone. Oh, that's nice,
Yeah,
man.
no, that's
Wait,
choice. That's
okay.
choice. That's
That's
really.
choice. I do love
somebody-
those.
Yeah,
I love
that
the-
works.
I
That
love-
works really well.
It's
You know
like
what I
a
love
flat color.
is the lights.
Yeah.
I love those tail lights they put on that.
the tail lights.
That's sweet, man.
There's a lengthy story about the tail light. All the lights.
Is anything
needing
not a lengthy
homologation.
story? Everything is a lengthy story.
Well, it's a podcast. I feel like
we've got
Well, it is-
we've got 4 more hours to film.
No, we've got about 35 or so minutes.
okay. Do it.
So we've got a few
Oh.
things.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we don't run out of time.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
I don't want to be midway through the watch box.
You want to talk. You want to segue. Well, it's funny because when I asked you about watches, man, I thought that you were going to have like a Swiss vault, a vintage one that you bought in 1987 that you'd been waiting. You'd researched the best vault to have, and it was this one.
Instead of a plastic box from Amazon.
Yeah, and it's been in
all about-
it's been in like a Manhattan mini storage for 23 years. Finally, you have it installed, and you've got like 52 watches. Each of one is so.
But I
you
feel
have
it's important to not be too predictable.
That's true, man.
Yeah.
So, but instead you have this like janky plastic
Yeah,
box.
I literally from Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall I? Well,
It's not-
are you gonna? Okay. I mean, I had a.
But what matters in here is what's in it.
Well, yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have to. So okay, I'm fully aware of the Paul Newman Daytona situation.
So there's a theme.
There-
There will be.
Is this like a pretend? Are these little puffy bits pretend?
I don't know.
Are these pretend carbon fiber?
Probably.
I think like this is pretend carbon fiber.
It's supposed to look cool.
It's good. It's
but-
lightweight, man. It's lightweight. So okay, so you've got the Paul Newman theme here. I'll just okay.
We have a Daytona theme.
Daytona theme. I mean, these look. This is. I mean, they're just genius. It's a shame they're such shabby examples. Joel.
It was difficult. It was hard to.
This is a beautiful one.
So let's
Thank you.
start.
So
'Cause we'll take a photo of this whole setup. So we'll start left to right.
okay. So
top
we
to
have
bottom.
we have a mid '90s Daytona, which
Exactly.
I have one of those.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about
we
that.
don't-
That's just the first Daytona
Right.
I got for Valentine's with my wife.
Did she buy that new?
We got it new. Yeah,
Oh,
we
okay.
did get it from our.
So then you've got. I don't even know the reference numbers on these things.
I checked before I came in to make sure.
Is that what you're
because
doing in the waiting room? Just scrolling
was
through.
like, I need to make sure because it's somewhat confused. That's 624. We have 6241 and 6240.
Okay.
Um,
These are both 70s, 8s,
67.
67.
67 and 68.
Okay. Which is 68?
The black one. No, I'm sorry. The black one. The black one. So
gotta
the
say-
black one is the first. The black one is the first Daytona with screw downs. So the first
yeah, okay.
waterproof one.
Okay.
And the other one is the Panda version with just normal pushers. And the story of these guys is similar to F40s.
Right. Did they just drift towards you? Was there a book? Is there a book, a Joel book
There
of
was
the
still, there is
roadmap?
still a McSiege in this story.
He's in. he
He's
just
in
elbows
all
his way
the-
into every
all the-
conversation.
Well, it's sort of he spends others' money well.
Right.
But it's
the best way to spend money.
So F40 similar. I love Daytonas because of many reasons. But the short version is, my friend Max also loves vintage Rolexes, and he basically connected with a friend of his that has a wonderful boutique in Forte dei Marmi, Maurizio De Angelis, which is this last.
I was
this
going to
last
ask
show as
about
well.
this one.
So De Angelis is a amazing young vintage watch dealer in Italy. He has extremely great taste, and he had this. He actually first had the 6240, which is the black with the screw
I'm
down.
impressed. If I could just interrupt, man, I'm impressed that you're buying watches from an Italian dealer. Only because every time I talk to Italian dealers, it's like they're living in like the fifth dimension where the prices are like let's say a Daytona is $100,000, which it isn't, but they'll go, this one, 450 grand. and they do it with a totally straight face. But then when they want to buy, and then you're like, what? And they go, hey, what's wrong with you? And then, but then when they want to buy a watch from you, they're like, hey, my father, he just died. I'm very sad. This watch would mean so much to him, to me. I mean, it's amazing. And then they're just so mad that you won't sell it to them at a reasonable price.
It hasn't been my experience, but I got a good price on these.
I feel like you're right. You know what? You are just definitely living a much better life than me.
You have to make, but no. So both of the Paul Newmans come from Maurizio.
Okay.
Who's
I have to check him out.
I actually
now.
recommend. Yeah, he doesn't play those games. He also speaks extremely good English.
Not like my insulting
But
Italian
he's actually
accent.
doing. Last year he did an auction with Antiquorum at Forte Marmi. It was a record auction. I think they sold 4.5 million on 8 pieces or something. He's doing it again this summer.
I have to look at these because this is the one.
Wait.
Oh,
Order.
All right. I'm just I'm just a magpie. I'm like drawn to shiny shit. So you've got this.
Wait, did we cover the?
The De Angelis.
This is the De Angelis made by the Giza, Super Giza.
No, so this is actually made by Lockman. So Maurizio designed the watch. This is forged carbon, mechanical automatic movement by Lockman.
Who's Lockman? You're saying that like I should know that.
You
You
actually should.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm the novice. I have no
I
idea.
don't know who Lockman
the
is,
watch
man.
company from Elba. They
What?
make it-
Napoleon's joint?
Isola d'Elba, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an Italian watch company. They're one of the larger independent. Wow.
You know what I?
Okay, no. Here's the thing.
Wait,
this
so
is.
this is-
Do you remember the movie with
Can you
Margin?
Google on that?
We do. But do you remember the movie Margin Call?
Yes.
Okay, you remember like the scene where like the boss of the bank is there? He's like, speak to me as if I'm like a child or a golden retriever.
Yes.
Treat me like a gold retriever.
No, but wait, hang on. Let's clear it up. Joel is just amazed. He understands you might not know, but he's just shocked that I don't know.
Also a gold retriever.
Yeah, so you should look up this company, Lockman. They make fashion watches. Lockman.
No, I don't
They
know.
work on the Isola d'Elba overlooking the water, and they're
Started
a
by
pretty
Napoleon.
meaningful manufacturer.
Okay.
So anyways, Maurizio designed this watch. It's a sort of his version of like the beach or winter watch.
Sure.
Forged carbon.
Did he give you this because you bought all these things?
Yeah, it was a gift.
I would imagine. After you buy a couple of Daytonas, he's like, I'll just throw in this watch.
But you see, like you can be generous too.
Listen, man, I'm
actually-
if you
don't
making.
want to get robbed, this is ideal.
Yeah, you know what else is ideal? 1970s Pateks. Look at this. No one's going to be stealing this
that's
watch from me.
gorgeous.
No one's going to be taking this from me, man.
And
People were like, "What is that? A child's watch you get for you stole it from a bar mitzvah?"
only a connoisseur would know.
That's right. So so we have that. Then we have this gold
Yes.
Datejust.
Yes, this is a
Very
Datejust. It's
beautiful,
actually
lovely.
this one my father gave me upon graduation of college, and I wore it. Yeah,
He had good taste.
Yeah,
Because you know how your parents will give you this, and this is the thing that's annoying about parents. They'll give you something that's supposed to be super, like a really meaningful event, but then it's the worst thing. Like, oh look, here's a Michael Kors watch for graduation, and then you've got to treasure that fucking watch for decades.
Yeah.
You can't throw it away.
No, I know.
And then people see you wearing it, like, yeah, I know it's a Michael Kors watch, but it's my graduation.
No, I was very fortunate. No, it was. Well, I had pre-warmed him already. Actually, made sure it's in red.
okay.
But it actually had a champagne dial. I had the face change.
Oh, well done, man. Much better.
To this black one.
beautiful.
Apparently you could do that. Like you can't. I'm told you.
Did you
can't
take it
do-
to Rolex?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
great.
So, anyways, but I've had it through whatever it is many years now, and it's a favorite.
This is
for sure.
MB&F. What are they called? Legacy machines?
That's MB&F Legacy Machine Perpetual. And
I think the name Legacy Machine is genius.
right? Because it's
genius.
steampunky.
Yeah, totally. I feel like
that's
is
the
this coal powered?
It's vapor powered.
So you want to hear the old geezery rant about this watch?
Please.
Like, I've spoken to Max a couple of times, and he's really lovely. I don't even know why I'm name dropping. Like we're not friends, but he said he would be on the podcast, which is genius. Yeah. So here's the thing that's fascinating. He spends all this time making this amazing thing. And then he puts the old geezery, that I'm going to get to. Like, this is a default strap.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why
and
people
actually,
do that.
that one is the one That's like let's say the fashion strap. The standard one is black. It's just like black. That's the one I asked for, like the one Max wears, which is this gray one, because I couldn't find the size from another manufacturer, and this is this one.
You can have a custom one made. I can hook you up with a custom geezer.
I agree. Combat straps. Is that who you use?
No. I have an Italian guy.
Oh, yeah. I should have done that, because in hindsight, it's you can do better for sure.
But it's a pretty amazing
thing. The movement's
thing.
amazing. Yeah, this one So I try to, like cars to some degree, I try to get a watches on milestones.
Sure.
Otherwise, it'd be a continuous
vomiting of a. Right.
But the MBNF is cool because it's actually the first fundamentally new architecture for perpetual calendar movement since Breguet invented it in 1890. Yeah, they all work the same. They all work based on we call like a base calendar that has, I think, 28 days, and then a mechanism that will add based on what month you're in to make the clock, to make the dates work right. This one was designed by a 28-year-old self-taught watchmaker, and it reverses the concept, and it starts where every month has 31, and it subtracts from that. And by doing that, it simplifies the mechanism substantially, and you can set it without breaking it at any time. And so it's super easy to set.
That's always good for a super expensive watch.
Well, perpetual is always the issue with perpetual is it takes forever to set them because they have to be set. With the normal movement, you have to be between like 6 p.m. and 9, and you got
to set the alarm for like 3 a.m.
They're very, they're complicated to set, and then if you change the date, it can take 20 minutes to set them back to the thing. So it's super usable. It's really fundamentally different and a rethinking of what somebody thought was already a solved problem, which is...
That appeals to you.
Is similar to my last business for handheld ultrasound.
We never even talked about that. Was a whole... All right. That's for episode 2.
Yeah. But anyway, so this one actually... It's one of their series. It doesn't have they also have horological machines which have more crazy design, like vertical readouts and stuff like that.
Wait, you also had a Resonance, didn't you?
I did,
and you sold it, and I still have one. Now I'm a buffoon.
You didn't like
Type
it? Type 5.
Yeah.
Type 3. I liked it just fine, but I guess I liked the MBNF more.
Liking something just fine is the kiss of death. That's like being told you're nice on a date. I like you just fine.
the main issue I had with it, I loved it actually, but I don't use a winder, and if you needed to reset the date on it at the time, it would take forever because you'd have to wind it only through the back. And it has
that no one sets the date on watches. You have to have it.
It just was like bother. It was just mostly I think it was like foo. If the watch wasn't worn, it would take 20 to 30 minutes it had to be wound on the back
for the right date.
Wind forward until it hit the right date.
Okay.
And eventually, I kind of didn't. Either I didn't wear it, I didn't want to wear it after a while, and it just started. It was sitting there and. If things,
I think
in my mind, if you don't wear watches, they don't,
No, I'm with you, man. But I think I just think that they're one of the most interesting. And I'm just talking about aesthetics because as always, I know nothing about how things work. But from an aesthetics and design standpoint, I think they're just truly individual. I mean, I think there's almost no one. There's no one really doing what they do.
And today they released an LN Silberstein special limited edition. It's really cool.
I saw that.
Face.
Yeah. It's super cool.
So the Resonance distributor who I met incidentally last week told me now they're on. I had to guess version 2 or 3 of it. Now they're on version 5 and it has a quick set mechanism.
Right.
So. I said okay, like that's good to know because that was the killer.
What's the Silberstein one going for? Do you know?
I have no idea. Oh yes, I do know. At 26, I think it's.
Did you see the blue one?
That is the blue one.
No.
There's another blue one.
I think that's
the
beautiful.
USA edition. I think.
No. There was no. I mean, the one they came out with a couple of months ago. It was just a blue dial, super simple, nothing, very stripped down.
No.
It's their entry level model.
Oh, I see.
It's beautiful.
Type 1 or something.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. The strap is rubbish, but the watch is I'm obsessed with straps. It's Google a new entry blue Resto. It's really, really beautiful, man. I'm kind of obsessed with it. I think it's like 15 grand. Just a round of drinks, really, for everyone. Yeah. Okay, then this. What is this? Is this? I can't even see anything anymore.
Aren't you wearing glasses?
Yeah, I am, but I think they're not working. Or I think
Okay.
My eyes
that
are
one.
Grubel. This is a Grubel.
That's your usual Grubel 4Z, quadruple tourbillon GMT. And this one actually was the exit timepiece. So
Okay.
This one I did get actually 2 days after we completed our deal.
Right.
Grubel released this watch. 2 days.
Okay, so you had to get it.
And our business color was blue as well.
Okay.
And GMT is my favorite function on a watch. I traveled, that year I traveled 14 times to Taiwan. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
But the prior year, because that was COVID. But anyways, so I love GMT function. I think it's super useful.
This is kind of unusual, this little
it's
planet
extremely
Earth
unusual.
sticking out on the side there.
Yeah, the case is crazy. It kind of has kind of the parts bulbousing out of the sides. And wind it, yeah.
I don't want to
go for it. Wind it. It's
going to do
do
some sort? It's buttery. Is it going to do some sort of Jacob the Jeweler thing? Is it going to play the theme to The Godfather?
Yeah, I wish I had some built-in arcade game.
You can't play Pong on this.
It just is a high level of finishing,
right?
And several tourbillons in one.
I do feel like there's a real movement happening.
The back is very nice. You should remove that
with independent watches.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's like some dials floating over a skeletonized.
Very 3D.
It's a thing happening.
This 3D thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone
3D
seems to be
faces.
doing it. Well,
Yeah.
that is cool though, man. I kind of like seeing the date wheel or whatever.
The city wheel.
Yeah, that's you see, I can't even see, man. I'm like I'm a human mole. I'm just doing stuff by sonar, like a bat.
Can you read off Braille on the?
That's right, man. Can I lift this up and touch the?
Please.
Yeah. Amazing, man. And then the final is the old. Is that a Batman?
That is a Batman. Yeah.
I can't believe I got that right.
Every few years I ask my Rolex dealer for a watch, and so the Daytona was like 15, that was a good 15 years ago.
Yeah.
The GMT was like 5 or 6 years ago, and most recently I asked him for a Destro. The Sprite GMT, the lefty.
Oh yeah,
the right hand.
Why is it called Destro?
Because you wear it on your right arm.
What's that got to do? What does Destro?
The word Destro means right.
Is that Italian?
Yes.
See, if they just said it's the Rolex right, it wouldn't. They wouldn't. But they did Rolex Destro. We could charge another 50 grand. Yeah, it's a Destro. The Rolex. I still feel like I'm vehemently outraged on a regular basis by the kind of extraordinary demonstration of beige mundanity that's performed on a regular basis by Patek. But Rolex, I would say Rolex, they still have the capacity to do something slightly surprising. Like, you know what?
I think that's pretty nicely surprising, that piece.
Well, the Destro.
No, you don't like it.
Well, you know what?
It's a small market,
me, and I liked it.
It's a small market.
No, I think it's. But
I'm not even left-handed.
Yeah, people.
I just want to have 4 time zones. So I can wear.
Yeah.
One.
You could go into the plane like that. The one I like is the palm dial one.
Oh yes,
I think that's
you're
super
right.
cool.
Yes,
and that's kind of a really unexpected thing to do.
Yes,
like actually,
gorgeous.
It's very audacious.
Very gorgeous.
I think.
I'm.
Can you ask your geezer if he can get me one at cost?
The palm one?
Yeah, come on, help a brother out, man.
I will.
I can throw in a T-shirt.
I'll send him a link. I'll send him a link, and then we'll assess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? The deal is already doomed if you're going to send him a link.
No, those are the watches.
Well, next time I see you, man, I expect this to triple. That's your homework,
I think
Joel.
I may have reached peak. The only way that everything has to balance. So, that means vehicles. If watch,
Oh, I see.
If watch, if we have one has to balance the other. So less car, more watch. Or,
You know what I would like, man? I would be very interested to see what you think of the 220 from a driving experience.
I would love. You should.
I want to come up there, man. I know. I want
We
to.
went to Caffeine and Carberry's.
I know, that
that
was-
joint was 5 minutes. I'm 5 minutes away from there.
I was gonna say, yeah. What is?
When you came to XP.
Well, no. Okay.
Where are you a
give us-
barista?
Give us a hang on. Yeah,
I'm a
tell
barista.
us about the thing, because I think we should. Thanks for bringing. Oh, sorry, man.
Oh, good.
Tell us about the new venture you have.
Yeah,
'cause
my
I
new
think
business.
Yeah.
It's a small business. So now I'm a small business operator.
Right.
But it's fusing passions and something that I think also is missing in our area. And it's basically a social club and car storage in Westport. So it's in.
And what's it called?
It's called Autostrada. Or would you say Autostrada?
See, right there, it's triple the fee.
Autostrada.
Yeah. Destro.
Which is not Autostrada Westport.
That's right. And how many? How many cars can you store?
It
in there,
has
roughly?
we have now. I don't have the lifts in yet, so we can store about 22 to 24.
Okay.
With the lifts, about 34. And but the interesting thing is actually it's become more of a social membership than really the car storage, just because the car storage is quite limited and actually full now. But we've had really good.
So how does that work in terms of? I mean, look, if it wasn't an hour away, man. I mean, I know that
I have a commuter membership too. There's like a couple folks from Long Island.
Maybe I could just Uber in.
Super.
Can I store
There's
my
a
Uber in there? My Lincoln Town Car? Can I store it in there, man? Well,
We have to discuss.
We discuss off.
There's a
off
curation
camera.
aspect.
But let me ask you this: so it's a social club. So how does that work? Do people are there just sort of people hanging around in there doing
So we
Jaeger
have-
bombs?
Not exactly. We have some scheduled hours.
I see.
So every morning there's a coffee service. This is where I man the machines.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This is my so I put to work the machines. So making fine coffees,
Right.
of different kinds.
It's like Cheers meets Posh Cars.
Exactly. So
Right.
you can have a coffee. There's a happy hour weekly. There's a bunch of there's monthly sort of thematic events, whether it's like barbecue and bourbon tastings, or
Right.
we'll do jamon iberico night with Spanish tapas, or
I'm a big jamon iberico fan.
Actually, MBNF Jean-Marc, who's the North American sales for MBNF, is having doing a dinner for some watch folks in May.
didn't-
We'll get into.
what?
Are you into that stuff?
What?
Watches?
Eating?
Yeah.
It watches? Sort of, man. Vaguely. I mean, passing interest. I got a couple of time
Exactly. But no, so it's and then on the weekends.
This is
there'll be
glorious, though, man, 'cause you didn't-
bagels and bullshit. But so it's a
Right.
way. It's actually what happened was trying to caffeine and carb, as you've seen.
It's too much.
It's a mess. Yeah,
It's
it's
just too
huge.
much,
It's
man.
enormous.
Did
And
you have a
then-
thing on that weekend, on that Sunday? Were you having a thing?
No. No,
Okay.
specifically because we
Right.
wanted to go say hi there. But actually, what the reality is that there's a large group of enthusiasts in the area, and they're looking. They don't have a regular place to call
Sure.
home, if you will, in Fairfield County and vicinity, and it's either hayfields or Zoombox.
Right.
And they, and it's a mob scene, and they're not really
No, I think
like
it's
car
I think
places.
I think it's a killer idea, man.
Yeah, so
and it's beautifully done. The
my
place
wife
looks
is
lovely.
the architect.
Yeah.
And so the story is complicated because we had partners initially, and I got the building before COVID. The partners bailed, and so it was actually vacant for a year and a half plus while I was working on my actual job.
Right.
And I tried to sublease it, tried to get out of it. It was quite complicated because there was I just couldn't do it. And then fortunately things worked out, and they said, okay, like after I get out of this tech grind, let's focus on build up.
I actually feel like car storage is extraordinarily lucrative
So,
and low maintenance. Or am I wrong?
You're right.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right. Which the discovery then was after now, investing and getting to and marketing and seeing the response is, whoa, actually, like these are good businesses. And in fact, can you
Franchise it.
Can it be done in other places?
I would be totally interested in being involved with that.
This notion of because it cannot be Amazoned, right? Meaning like you can't be replaced by a giant corporation.
Well, because a large part of
niche.
well, what's interesting about what you're doing, and I don't know if other people are doing this. I mean, maybe they are, maybe they're not. But what I find really the kind of genius part of is the social aspect, because there are storage places.
Exactly.
And and it seems like there's storage first, and then they try and shoehorn a social.
By the way,
aspect.
great place to plug Hagerty Garage and Social.
Yes, exactly.
Way to kill the conversation.
Listen, I had to do it. I'm going to get yelled at if I don't do it.
I told first off, like Hagerty. First off, I'm a Hagerty client,
Right.
And insured my cars.
Thank you for your business.
So, and by the way, and Hagerty are members. A couple of Hagerty folks are members, not because like their place is actually they have a 30-car wait list at their place, so they're doing just fine.
They're there for the meat slicer, man.
Exactly, it's a different because this environment is obviously much less storage and more social and kind of lounge, because that's what the space allowed for.
Right.
I
think it's a genius model.
If I could store more cars, I would, because that's it's even more lucrative and it's less maintenance. But also for our purposes, in terms of doing something interesting, we wanted to be able to also host events, and so it had to have more.
So you're going to do another one somewhere else?
Thinking about it, there's a lot of appetite in Palm Beach.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Several friends told me they would be early, investors or adopters, because similarly there's a couple there's warehouses, they're filling up. They're continuing to build more warehouses to store these cars, but there are just boxes,
right?
And nobody wants to really hang out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's lovely about your space, and I doff my cap to your missus, man, because I haven't been there, but it looks really beautiful, and I think that for the social aspect to work, it must be architecturally inviting
pleasant.
And beautiful. Yeah, it can't be like an airplane hangar with 50-foot ceilings and there's 3 deck chairs in the corner.
Exactly, and that's sort of the feedback, which was started becoming pretty consistent then we realized we were like on a different, the formula had resonated, was people would tell us immediately they feel comfortable and chill at home. They just sit down, hang out, and it's very comfortable environment. That was the idea. It's like a living room more than it is your storage, where you have like a couch and then a big.
Well, also I think
it feels cold and uninviting.
A huge volume, volumes of that size.
It's not
really
inviting.
inviting.
Well, also I think you also mentioned something critical, which is the curatorial aspect.
Yeah.
Because when you're in this living room, you want to be surrounded by beautiful things.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, you don't want to have like the poster of the girl scratching her ass on a tennis court from 1987. If anyone knows that reference, probably no one, except for me. Do you know what that reference is?
I don't.
It's a girl in a mini skirt, and she's scratching her
familiar.
ass. It was a huge poster in the mid '80s. No, it was just a poster that was ever in the '80s. Anyway, the point is that I think that you seem to have gone about it really smartly, man. I mean, I would really love to come and see it, because I just
please do.
I'll come up in the Lincoln Town Car. We can
negotiate
like a long-term storage situation.
It's easy.
I think. Well, are we at the end of our time? Or we
we're
another 4 or 5 hours. Squeeze another 4 hours out of Joel. Listen, man, I just want to say again, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
It was a real joy, man. I mean,
I feel we hardly scratched the surface. We were jumping on a lot of different topics.
We'll have to have you back, man, because if you'd be interested,
Lovely.
because I think you're right. There are so many layers of OCD and peculiar obsessions, meat slicers, panini makers, deep fryers that I'd like to discuss with you. So
and cars.
So thank you so much again, Joel.
My pleasure, Phil.
It was a delight.
Pleasure.
Thanks, man.
See you guys.